Have you ever been invisible in a room full of people who should have known exactly who you were? Have you ever felt that crushing weight in your chest when you realize that the company you built with your own bleeding hands, the empire you created from absolute nothing, has turned into something you no longer recognize? Well, let me tell you what happened to me on that cold Tuesday morning in November, and I promise you, by the end of this story, you'll understand why some moments change us forever, why some betrayals cut deeper than any knife, and why sometimes the sweetest victory comes wrapped in the most painful revelation. I'm standing outside the glass doors of Sterling Industries, the 50-story monument to everything I sacrificed, everything I lost, everything I built from the ashes of my former life. My hands are trembling slightly as I adjust the simple blazer I'm wearing. Nothing designer, nothing that screams power or wealth, just a plain black blazer purchased from a department store, paired with modest pants and flats that have seen better days. I look nothing like the CEO I actually am, and that's exactly the point. You see, I've been away for 6 months, recovering from a breakdown that nobody talks about, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones when you've given everything to something you love only to watch it start crumbling from the inside. My board of directors insisted I take time off, insisted I step back and let the interim leadership handle things, and like a fool, I trusted them. I trusted Marcus, my former college roommate and CFO, the man I'd given a chance when nobody else would. I trusted Jennifer, the brilliant strategist I'd mentored from an intern to VP of operations. I trusted all of them, and now, standing here in disguise, my heart is hammering against my ribcage because I know something they don't know I know. Anonymous emails started arriving 3 weeks ago. Detailed accounts of discrimination, harassment, hostile work environment, favoritism, corruption, everything that goes against every single value I embedded into this company's foundation. At first, I thought it was disgruntled employees, you know how it goes. People who didn't get promotions they felt entitled to, but then the emails became more specific, more disturbing, including photos, recorded conversations, evidence that made my blood run cold. The person sending these emails begged me to come see for myself, to witness what Sterling Industries had become in my absence, to understand that the culture I'd so carefully cultivated had been poisoned, infected by something toxic and cruel. So here I am, dressed down, my usually styled hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, cheap glasses that aren't even prescription, looking exactly like a nervous job applicant arriving for an entry-level position interview. I scheduled this interview myself using a fake name, Elena Martinez, and I'm about to walk into my own company as a stranger, about to see with my own eyes what's been happening in my absence. The glass doors slide open with that familiar whisper of expensive engineering, and immediately I'm hit with the scent of the lobby, that distinctive blend of leather furniture, fresh flowers, and the particular brand of coffee we serve in the executive lounge. Everything looks the same: the soaring atrium, the waterfall feature I commissioned from that artist in Seattle, the living wall of plants that cost more than most people's cars. But something feels different, something in the air that I can't quite name yet. I approach the reception desk where 2 young women are sitting, neither of whom I recognize, which isn't surprising since we employ over 2,000 people, and I've been gone for months. They're both absorbed in their phones, perfectly manicured nails tapping away at screens, and they don't even look up as I stop directly in front of them. I wait, counting the seconds in my head, 10, 20, 30 seconds of being completely ignored, and I feel that old familiar tightness starting in my chest, that sensation of being invisible, of being dismissed, of not mattering. Finally, one of them, a blonde woman with elaborate hair extensions and makeup applied with the precision of a beauty influencer, glances up with an expression of such profound annoyance that it actually takes me back for a moment. No smile, no greeting, no acknowledgement of my humanity, just this look that says I'm interrupting something far more important than doing her actual job. I clear my throat softly and say, my voice deliberately meek and uncertain, that I'm here for an interview at 9 o'clock for the administrative assistant position. The blonde receptionist, her name tag reads Amber, doesn't even try to hide her eye roll, and she exchanges this look with her colleague, this knowing, mocking glance that makes my stomach twist because I know that look. I've seen it before in my life, before I became successful, before I had power and money and influence. It's the look that says you don't belong here, you're not one of us, you're somehow less than. Amber sighs dramatically and starts typing on her computer with exaggerated slowness, each keystroke deliberate, making me wait, making sure I understand my place in whatever hierarchy she's invented in her mind. She finally asks for my name without looking at me, and when I say Elena Martinez, I watch her face carefully, looking for any flicker of recognition, But there's nothing, just more disdain, more contempt. She tells me in this condescending voice, the kind you'd use with a child who doesn't understand something simple, that I need to take a seat in the waiting area and someone will come get me when they're ready, emphasizing that last part, when they're ready. Not when it's time for my scheduled appointment, but when they decide I'm worthy of their attention. I thank her quietly and turn toward the waiting area, and that's when I hear it. That sharp burst of laughter that isn't even trying to be discreet. Amber is showing something on her phone to her colleague, and they're both giggling. And even though they're not speaking loudly enough for me to hear the words, I know with absolute certainty that they're laughing at me, at my appearance, at my cheap blazer and my nervous demeanor, at everything about me that doesn't fit their image of who belongs in this building. The waiting area is a study in expensive minimalism, low-slung leather chairs that cost $3,000 each, a glass coffee table with perfectly fanned copies of business magazines, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a stunning view of the city. I sink into one of those obscenely expensive chairs and I'm shaking, actually shaking with a combination of rage and heartbreak that I haven't felt in years. This is my company. I built this. I created every policy, every program, every initiative designed to make Sterling Industries a place where everyone feels valued, where respect isn't optional but fundamental, where people are judged by their contributions and character, not their appearance or background. Have you ever poured your soul into something only to watch it become the exact opposite of what you intended? Have you ever felt that particular brand of betrayal when your vision, your dream, your life's work gets corrupted by the very people you trusted to protect it? Comment below if you've ever experienced this, because I need you to understand that what I'm feeling in this moment isn't just anger, it's grief, deep and profound, the kind of grief you feel when something you love dies right in front of you. I'm sitting there, watching employees stream through the lobby, and I start to notice patterns that make my chest tighten with each passing moment. The way certain people are greeted warmly, with genuine smiles and friendly conversation, while others receive barely a nod or worse, are completely ignored. I watch a young black woman in a maintenance uniform walk past the reception desk, and Amber doesn't even acknowledge her existence, doesn't offer the basic human courtesy of a good morning or a smile, just continues her phone conversation as if this hard-working employee is invisible. Minutes later, a white man in an expensive suit breezes through, and suddenly Amber is all sunshine and charm, standing up to greet him, laughing at something he says, her entire demeanor transformed. The double standard is so blatant, so obvious, that I'm amazed I never saw it before. Or maybe I did see glimpses of it, but I was too busy, too focused on growth and strategy, and the big picture to really dig into the daily reality of what was happening at every level of my organization. A group of employees emerges from the elevator bank, clearly heading out for a coffee break, and as they pass near my waiting area, I overhear fragments of their conversation that make my blood run cold. They're talking about someone named Patricia, mocking her accent, imitating the way she speaks, laughing at her expense with a cruelty that seems casual, normalized, as if this is just how people communicate here now. One of them, a man in his 30s wearing a Sterling Industries employee badge, says something about how Patricia should go back to where she came from, if she can't even speak proper English, and the others laugh like this is the funniest joke they've heard all week. I want to stand up. I want to confront them right there. I want to rip off this disguise and remind them who I am. Remind them that Sterling Industries was founded on principles of inclusion and respect. Remind them that their behavior is not just unacceptable but fireable. But I force myself to stay seated, to stay in character, because I need to see more. I need to understand how deep this poison runs. 20 minutes pass, then 30, and still nobody comes to get me for my supposedly scheduled interview. I watch Amber and her colleague chatting, laughing, completely unconcerned about the fact that they've left me sitting here far past my appointment time. It's a power play, whether conscious or unconscious, a way of establishing hierarchy, of making sure I know I'm not important enough to be treated with basic professional courtesy. At the 40-minute mark, I finally stand and approach the desk again, my heart pounding because I'm genuinely curious about how they'll handle this. I politely mention that my interview was scheduled for 9 o'clock, and it's now almost 10, and Amber looks at me like I've just said something incredibly stupid. She tells me, her voice dripping with fake patience, that things run on their own schedule here, and I need to learn to be flexible if I want to work at such a prestigious company. The irony is almost too much to bear because I created that prestige. I built this company's reputation through 17-hour days and sacrificed weekends and relationships that fell apart because I was too dedicated to my vision. This entitled receptionist, who probably makes $40,000 a year, is lecturing me about the prestige of a company I built from nothing. And I have to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from saying something that would blow my cover. But I nod meekly and return to my seat. And that's when things get even worse. A woman in her 50s approaches the reception desk, dressed in a cleaning uniform with the name Rosa embroidered on it, and she's trying to explain something in heavily accented English, something about a spill on the executive floor that needs immediate attention. Amber doesn't even let her finish, just waves her hand dismissively and tells her in this incredibly rude voice to figure it out herself. That's what she's paid for. Rosa looks hurt, embarrassed, and she nods quickly and hurries away. And I see tears in her eyes as she passes me. Something inside me cracks a little more, and I make a mental note of Amber's full name from her employee badge, knowing that this moment will have consequences. Knowing that when I reveal who I am, this particular receptionist is going to learn a very expensive lesson about treating people with dignity regardless of their position. My phone buzzes in my pocket, and I glance down to see another anonymous email with the subject line, "Check the executive floor conference room, 11 a.m. You'll want to see this." I check my watch and realize I have just enough time to make it up there if I can get past security. The email includes a temporary access code and detailed instructions, and I'm struck again by how much this anonymous whistleblower knows, how deeply embedded they must be in the company's operations. I stand up, deciding to abandon the pretense of waiting for an interview that was never real anyway, and I head toward the elevator bank with my heart racing so fast I can hear blood rushing in my ears. The elevator doors close behind me with that soft chime that I remember choosing from dozens of options when we were building this place. And I'm alone in this sleek metal box rising toward the executive floor, toward whatever truth is waiting for me there. I punch in the access code from the email, half expecting it not to work, but the button for the 50th floor lights up, granting me access to the inner sanctum, the place where the real decisions are made, where the company's soul either thrives or dies. As the elevator climbs, I catch my reflection in the polished metal doors, and I barely recognize myself. I look smaller somehow, diminished, nothing like the confident CEO whose portrait hangs in the lobby downstairs, the woman in the power suit with the determined expression and the eyes that don't take no for an answer. I look like someone who could be easily dismissed, easily forgotten, easily trampled, and I realize this is probably how hundreds of our employees feel every single day now, invisible in their own workplace, undervalued despite their contributions, judged by superficial criteria that have nothing to do with their actual worth. The elevator opens directly into the executive floor reception area, and this space is even more luxurious than the main lobby. All rich wood paneling and original art and that particular kind of hushed atmosphere that screams power and money. There's another reception desk here, unmanned at the moment, and I slip past it toward the conference room, following the mental map of a building I know better than my own apartment. I can hear voices as I approach, multiple people talking over each other, the kind of heated discussion that sounds like an argument trying to maintain a veneer of professionalism. I position myself near the partially open door where I can hear but not be seen, and what I hear in the next few moments makes me want to scream, cry, and start firing people all at once. Marcus, my former college roommate, the man I gave his first real break to when he was drowning in student loans and rejection letters, is holding court with several other executives, and he's talking about me. He's saying that my absence has been the best thing that ever happened to this company, that I was always too soft, too focused on touchy-feely nonsense about company culture and employee satisfaction when we should have been maximizing profits and cutting dead weight. Someone laughs and agrees, saying that all my diversity initiatives and inclusion programs were just virtue signaling anyway, expensive wastes of money that did nothing but make us look weak to our competitors. Jennifer chimes in, sweet Jennifer who cried in my office when I promoted her, who thanked me with genuine tears in her eyes for believing in her when nobody else did, and she's saying that I was always more concerned with being liked than being respected, that a real leader would have made the tough decisions I was too emotional to make. The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing with precision on the most vulnerable parts of my heart. I'm hearing the people I trusted, the people I mentored, the people I considered friends, talking about me like I'm some naive fool who stumbled into success, rather than built it deliberately, systematically, through years of grueling work and sacrifice. Marcus continues, his voice full of confidence and authority that he certainly didn't have when I hired him, saying that they need to figure out how to keep me sidelined permanently, how to convince the board that the company doesn't need me anymore, that they're doing fine without my interference. He uses that word specifically, interference, as if my presence in the company I founded, is somehow a problem to be solved rather than an asset to be valued. Another voice, one I don't immediately recognize, suggests that they could make things so uncomfortable for me when I return that I'll choose to leave on my own, that they could systematically undermine my authority, countermand my decisions, isolate me until I get the message that I'm not wanted anymore. The cruelty of it, the calculated nature of this betrayal, makes me feel physically ill. I lean against the wall, trying to steady my breathing, trying to process the magnitude of what I'm hearing. These aren't just disloyal employees. This is a coordinated coup, a deliberate plan to push me out of my own company. And suddenly, all those anonymous emails make perfect sense. Someone in that room, someone with a conscience, has been watching this happen and couldn't stay silent anymore, couldn't be complicit in this betrayal. I hear Jennifer say something about the staff, about how they've been implementing new policies that reward the people who fit their vision of what a Sterling Industries employee should be, people who are focused and driven and not distracted by personal issues or sensitive feelings. She says this with such disdain, as if having empathy or caring about work-life balance is somehow a character flaw, rather than a sign of humanity. Marcus agrees enthusiastically, saying they've already started phasing out some of the underperformers, getting rid of the people who were only here because of my soft-hearted hiring practices. And he laughs when he says this. Actually laughs, as if people's livelihoods and families and futures are just jokes to be dismissed. I think about Rosa, the cleaning woman I saw downstairs being treated like she was invisible, and I wonder if she's one of the people they're targeting, one of the employees they've decided doesn't fit their new vision. I think about Patricia, whoever she is, being mocked for her accent by people who should be celebrating the diversity that makes companies stronger and more innovative. I think about every single person in this building who comes to work every day, who gives their time and energy and talent to something that's supposed to value them in return, and I realize that I've failed them by being away, by not being here to protect the culture I worked so hard to create. The conversation in the conference room shifts to financials, and I hear them discussing numbers that make my blood boil. They've been cutting benefits, reducing matching contributions to retirement accounts, eliminating training programs, all the things that made Sterling Industries an employer of choice, all the investments in people that I believed were essential to long-term success. They're treating the company like a short-term profit machine, squeezing every dollar out of it with no thought for sustainability or the human cost of their decisions. Marcus mentions that they've already identified several departments they can outsource, putting hundreds of loyal employees at risk, and he sounds excited about this, energized by the prospect of bigger profit margins on the next quarterly report. I close my eyes and I'm transported back to the beginning, to the tiny apartment where I lived on ramen noodles and hope, to the 3 a.m. nights when I was writing the business plan that would eventually become Sterling Industries, to the hundreds of rejection meetings with investors who didn't believe in my vision, who told me I was too young, too female, too idealistic to build a successful company in this industry. I remember the first employee I hired, David, a software engineer who took a chance on my startup when he could have worked anywhere, who believed in the vision of a company that would prioritize people as much as profits, who helped me build the foundation of something special. I remember the first time we made payroll on time, the first major contract we won, the first article that mentioned Sterling Industries as an innovative leader in our field, every milestone that felt like validation of everything I'd sacrificed to get there. I remember deliberately crafting policies that would make this a place where people could thrive, where parents could attend their kids' school events without guilt, where employees from any background could see themselves in leadership, where mental health was taken seriously and burnout was prevented rather than glorified. I remember interviewing every single person for the first 100 hires myself, looking for people who were not just talented but kind, not just ambitious but ethical, building a team that would embody the values I wanted to define us. And now I'm hearing that all of that, every intentional choice, every value-driven decision, every policy designed to make this place different from the cutthroat corporate environments I'd experienced earlier in my career, all of it is being systematically dismantled by people who see it as weakness rather than strength. The grief is overwhelming, but underneath it, there's something else building, something hot and fierce and unbreakable. I'm angry, truly angry in a way I haven't been in years, and this anger is clarifying, focusing, turning into determination sharp as a blade. I pull out my phone and start recording, capturing audio of their conversation, documenting their words because I know I'll need evidence. I know that what's about to happen will require proof that I didn't imagine this betrayal, that it's real and documented and undeniable. Marcus is talking about the board meeting next week, saying they need to present a united front about keeping me in an advisory role with no real power, basically kicking me upstairs into irrelevance. He mentions that they've already secured support from several board members, people I thought were allies, people who've known me for years, and I'm making mental notes of every name he mentions, every person who's been part of this conspiracy. Jennifer asks what they should do if I resist, if I try to fight back, and there's a moment of silence before Marcus says something that makes my hands clench into fists. He says that they have documentation of my breakdown, my mental health crisis, and they can use it to paint me as unstable, unfit for leadership, someone who needs to step aside for the good of the company. The violation of that, the willingness to weaponize my vulnerability, my honest struggle with burnout and depression that I trusted them with, it's almost too much to process. I want to burst through that door right now. I want to confront them with all the rage and hurt churning inside me. But something stops me. Some instinct that tells me the timing isn't right, that I need to see more, understand more, build a case that's so airtight they won't be able to talk their way out of it. I slip away from the conference room door, my heart hammering, and I start wandering through the executive floor, observing, documenting, seeing things I never noticed before. There are subtle signs everywhere once you know to look for them, the way certain offices are decorated versus others, the way some assistants have current technology while others are working with outdated equipment, the way conversations stop when certain people walk past. I make my way to my own office using my actual key card this time, because at this level security is biometric and there's no faking it. And when the door swings open, I'm hit with a wave of emotion so strong I have to grip the doorframe for support. Everything is exactly as I left it 6 months ago. My desk with its organized chaos of papers and projects, my chair that I had custom made after throwing out my back from too many long days, the photos on my credenza of my parents who didn't live to see this success, the framed copy of our mission statement that I wrote by hand in the early days, the painting I bought from a street artist in Prague during the only vacation I'd taken in 5 years. It's like a time capsule of who I was before everything fell apart, before the exhaustion and stress broke me down, before I had to step away to save myself. I sit down in my chair and I let myself feel everything I've been holding back, the betrayal and the grief and the rage and the determination, all of it washing over me in waves that leave me breathless. I think about all the employees I saw this morning being treated with casual cruelty, all the people who come to work hoping to be valued and instead face discrimination and disrespect. I think about the culture of fear and favoritism that's replaced the culture of collaboration and respect I tried to build. I think about Marcus and Jennifer and all the others who decided that profits mattered more than people, that short-term gains justified long-term damage, that my vision was naive rather than revolutionary. And I realize that I have a choice to make. I can walk away, take a settlement, let them have the company and move on with my life, or I can fight, knowing it will be messy and painful and public, knowing I'll have to relive my breakdown and defend my choices and prove that I'm not too soft or too emotional or too idealistic to lead. The decision, when it comes, isn't really a decision at all, because I know I can't walk away. Not from the employees who are suffering under this new regime, not from the values I embedded in this company's DNA, not from the vision that kept me going through all those impossible early years. I pull out my laptop and I start writing, documenting everything I've witnessed, everything I've heard, cross-referencing it with the anonymous emails, building a case that's thorough and damning and impossible to dismiss. I'm working with a focus I haven't felt in months, and I realize that maybe the breakdown was necessary. Maybe I needed to be broken down so I could be rebuilt stronger, clearer, more determined than ever. Hours pass, and I'm deep in this work when my phone rings, startling me out of my concentration. It's Richard Chen, the board chairman, someone I've known since the early days, someone I thought I could trust. I almost don't answer, wondering if he's part of the conspiracy too, but curiosity wins and I pick up. His voice is warm and concerned, asking how I'm doing, how my recovery is going, whether I'm feeling ready to return, and I'm analyzing every word, listening for deception, for signs that he's one of them. He mentions that there's an emergency board meeting tomorrow, says that some concerns have been raised about the company's direction, and he wants me there, says it's important that I attend. I can tell from his tone that he doesn't know about the coup, doesn't realize that this emergency meeting is probably their big play to sideline me permanently, and I make a split-second decision. I tell him I'll be there, but I don't tell him I already know what's coming, don't reveal that I've been in the building today, that I've seen and heard things that will change everything. I spend the rest of that day and all night preparing, going through financials and employee data and incident reports, building an airtight case that shows exactly what's been happening in my absence. I barely sleep, running on adrenaline and coffee and righteous anger, and when dawn breaks, I'm ready. I dress carefully, not in the modest disguise of yesterday, but in full CEO armor, the custom suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, the shoes that add 3 inches to my height, the jewelry that's subtle but expensive, the makeup that enhances rather than conceals, the hair styled by the same person who works with Fortune 500 executives. I look at myself in the mirror and I see the woman I was before the breakdown, but changed, tempered by pain into something harder and more resilient. I arrive at Sterling Industries at 8 a.m., 2 hours before the board meeting, and I walk through those glass doors with my head held high. Amber is at the reception desk again, and when she sees me, her face goes through this fascinating progression of emotions, confusion, recognition, and then pure terror. She starts to stammer something, an apology or an excuse, but I don't slow down, don't acknowledge her at all, just keep walking toward the elevators while I hear her frantic whispers to her colleague behind me. The executive floor is busy when I arrive, people rushing around preparing for the board meeting, and I watch them notice me, watch the shock ripple through the space as people realize I'm back, that I'm here, that whatever they thought was going to happen today just changed. I head straight for the conference room where the board meeting will be held, and I start setting up, connecting my laptop to the presentation system, arranging my materials, preparing for what's about to be the most important meeting of my professional life. Board members start arriving, and their reactions vary from genuine pleasure at seeing me to poorly concealed dismay, and I'm cataloging who's who, who's ally, and who's enemy. Marcus arrives with Jennifer and several other executives, and when Marcus sees me sitting at the head of the table, in the chair that's always been mine, I watch his face go pale, watch his confident swagger falter for just a moment before he recovers and pastes on a fake smile. The board meeting begins, and Richard opens with standard pleasantries before turning the floor over to Marcus, who launches into his presentation about the company's direction. He's smooth, confident, presenting numbers that look good on the surface, but that I know are built on cost-cutting, that's hurting employees and sacrificing long-term stability for short-term gains. He talks about efficiency and optimization and all the other buzzwords that sound impressive, but really just mean doing more with less and expecting people to work harder for fewer rewards. Jennifer presents next, talking about operational changes and new policies, and I'm sitting there listening to them describe the dismantling of everything I built, watching some board members nod along approvingly, and I'm waiting for the right moment, letting them dig their own graves deeper with every word. Marcus finishes by suggesting that the company needs permanent leadership changes, that my return should be limited to an advisory capacity, that the team has proven they can run things effectively without my day-to-day involvement. Several board members who are clearly part of the conspiracy voice their agreement, and I watch Richard's face, see him processing this ambush, realizing that something bigger is happening than he understood. And then it's my turn, and I stand up, and the room goes quiet in a way that's almost physical. Everyone's suddenly aware that they might have miscalculated badly. I start by thanking Marcus for his presentation, my voice calm and professional, no hint of the fury burning inside me. I mention that I've been looking forward to returning, that my time away gave me valuable perspective, and I see some of them start to relax, thinking maybe I'm going to go along with their plan. Maybe I've been beaten down enough to accept my diminished role. And then I smile, and I say that my perspective included some very interesting observations about what's been happening at Sterling Industries in my absence, and I watch the color drain from Marcus's face as he realizes I know. I start presenting, and what I show them is devastating, undeniable, damning. Audio recordings of their conspiracy, documentation of discriminatory practices, evidence of policy changes that violate labor laws, financial data showing that their cost-cutting is actually hurting long-term profitability, employee complaints that have been ignored or suppressed, everything laid out in meticulous detail that took me all night to compile. I present specific incidents, naming names, showing dates and times, playing audio clips of Marcus talking about keeping me sidelined, of Jennifer mocking the values I built the company on, of executives casually discussing discrimination as if it were a business strategy. The room is dead silent except for my voice and the damning evidence playing from my laptop speakers, and I watch them squirm, watch their faces cycle through denial and panic and desperate attempts to think of explanations. I present data showing that employee satisfaction has plummeted, that turnover has increased dramatically, that we've lost several key clients who cited concerns about our changed culture. I show them that the short-term financial gains they're so proud of are built on unsustainable practices that are already starting to crack, that we're facing potential lawsuits from employees who've been discriminated against, that their coup has put the entire company at legal and financial risk. Richard is furious. I can see it in the tightness of his jaw, and the other board members who weren't part of the conspiracy look shocked and appalled. I present my recommendations, which include immediate termination of everyone involved in the conspiracy, mandatory investigation into all policy changes made in my absence, restoration of all the programs and benefits that were cut, and implementation of even stronger oversight to prevent this from ever happening again. Marcus tries to interrupt, tries to defend himself, claiming that everything they did was for the good of the company, that I'm being emotional and irrational, that my mental health issues are clearly affecting my judgment. And this is the moment I've been waiting for, the moment when he tries to use my vulnerability as a weapon, because I'm ready for it. I look at him directly, and I say in a voice that's cold and hard as diamond that my mental health crisis was caused by the stress of watching people I trusted begin to corrupt everything I'd built, that my instincts were telling me something was wrong long before I could articulate it, that breaking down and stepping away was actually the sanest response to an insane situation. I tell him that seeking help when you need it isn't weakness, but wisdom, that prioritizing mental health isn't a character flaw, but a sign of strength, and I watch him shrink under the weight of his own exposed cruelty. I tell the board that I'm resuming my full duties as CEO immediately, that anyone who has a problem with that can tender their resignation today, and I ask for a formal vote on whether the board supports my return or wants to side with the conspirators. It's not even close, the vote is almost unanimous in my favor, with only the 2 board members who were part of the coup voting against me, and within minutes, security is escorting Marcus and Jennifer and 3 other executives out of the building, their access revoked, their employment terminated, their betrayal finally having consequences. In the days and weeks that follow, I work 16-hour days rebuilding what was broken, meeting with every department, listening to employees who've been suffering in silence, restoring programs and policies, firing managers who created toxic environments, promoting people who maintained integrity even when it was difficult. I personally apologize to Rosa, the cleaning woman, and make her part of a task force on workplace respect. I find Patricia and learn that she's a brilliant engineer whose accent has nothing to do with her competence. I sit down with Amber, the receptionist, and I give her a choice: complete our comprehensive sensitivity training and commit to change, or find another job. And I watch her choose growth over defensiveness. The transformation isn't instant. Rebuilding trust never is. But slowly, day by day, I watch Sterling Industries start to remember who it's supposed to be. I implement new transparency measures so employees always know what's happening at the leadership level. I create anonymous reporting systems with real teeth so concerns can't be buried. I personally review every termination and promotion to ensure fairness. I bring in outside consultants to audit our culture and hold us accountable. I share my story publicly, talking about the breakdown, the betrayal, the disguise that showed me the truth, and the response is overwhelming. Thousands of messages from people who felt invisible in their workplaces, who've been judged by superficial criteria, who've watched good companies become toxic, who needed to hear that it's possible to fight back and win. I learned that the anonymous whistleblower was actually David, my very first employee, who watched the coup happening and couldn't stay silent, who risked his career to make sure I knew the truth, and I promote him to Chief Ethics Officer, a new position dedicated to ensuring we never lose our way again. 6 months after that board meeting, Sterling Industries is thriving again, not just financially but culturally, and we're being recognized as a leader in ethical business practices, in creating workplaces where everyone can thrive. I'm standing in the lobby one morning, watching employees stream in for the day, and I see something that makes my heart swell with hope. People are smiling, greeting each other warmly regardless of title or background, treating each other with the basic dignity that should never have been questioned. And I realize that the breakdown, the betrayal, even the painful morning spent in disguise being treated like I didn't matter, all of it was necessary to teach me something crucial: that you can't protect a culture by being absent, that values require constant vigilance, that leadership isn't just about vision, but about being present to defend that vision every single day. So let me ask you something. Have you ever witnessed injustice in your workplace and wondered whether speaking up would make a difference? Have you ever felt invisible or dismissed and wished someone in power would actually see you? Comment below and tell me your story, because your experiences matter, your voice matters, and maybe together we can start a conversation about what workplaces should be, not what they often are. This story, my story, isn't just about corporate drama or personal vindication. It's about understanding that culture is fragile, that values must be defended, that dignity is non-negotiable, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is show up as yourself, see the truth clearly, and have the courage to fight for what's right even when it's painful. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt overlooked or undervalued or discriminated against, I want you to know that you're not alone, that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by your inherent dignity as a human being. Leave a like if this story resonated with you, if you believe that workplaces should be built on respect and fairness, not politics and power games. Subscribe to my Truth Revealed Tales for more stories about people who fought back against injustice, who refused to accept unacceptable situations, who found the courage to stand up even when standing up was terrifying. Hit that notification bell so you never miss these stories that remind us we're all capable of more courage than we think, more resilience than we know, more impact than we imagine. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's possible to reclaim what's been taken, to rebuild what's been broken, to transform pain into purpose and betrayal into wisdom. And remember, wherever you are right now, whatever you're facing, you have more power than you think, more worth than anyone can diminish, more strength than any challenge can break. Your story matters, your truth matters, and the world needs people who refuse to be invisible, who stand up for what's right, who remember that at the end of the day, how we treat each other is the only legacy that really counts. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of a community that believes everyone deserves to be seen, valued, and treated with dignity. This is my Truth Revealed Tales, and I'll see you in the next story.